As you build rapport and initiate the trust-building process with prospects, they will continue to evaluate your overall presence. Top sales professionals very quickly establish an executive presence and gain the attention of their prospects, creating a partnership-based playing field for the entire sales process. As prospects evaluate your presence, they quickly decide if you have the ability to become a trusted partner, or if you'll be just another transaction that comes through their office. This evaluation takes place in person and over the phone, and in most cases occurs subconsciously in the prospect's mind. If you pass the test, the buyer will be open to the possibility of building a partnership with you. If you don't pass the test, well, then you'll struggle to keep the relationship moving forward. Keep in mind that while the concept of executive presence is universal, each specific component is tailored to the industry, target audience, and culture that you're working in. For example, in North America, a firm handshake with professional eye contact is one sign of executive presence. However, handshakes vary from culture to culture, and in some Asian cultures, a softer handshake is actually the norm. While there are many intricate details that make up executive presence, we'll focus on the three overarching components that create a strong executive presence for sales professionals: competence, trust, and ego state. By now you've had a chance to cover the 5 elements of competence and the 4 building blocks of trust. So let's dig into ego state. One's ego state can be described as the system of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with which he or she interacts with another. In Dr. Eric Burns' research on transactional analysis, as published in his book Games People Play, he explains the 3 ego states in which people view themselves at any given time. While the research is extremely interesting, there are a few key points from his research that help sales professionals better understand and prepare for interactions with prospects and to help build their executive presence. Let's highlight the 3 ego states, then show how they can play a role in your interactions with prospects. The child ego states represents the internal emotions and feelings children experience in their first 5 to 6 years. The key words here are internal and feelings. The parent ego state represents the external events a child experiences in their first 5 to 6 years, most of which are centered around information taught to them by their parents or other adults they spend a lot of time with. The key words here are external and taught. The adult ego state starts to develop around 1 or 2 years of age and is where children begin to realize that they can translate information on their own and self-learn from their environment. It's very common in this stage for people to start to prove or disprove what they were taught by their parents. Don't you just hate it when you discover that your parents were right after all these years? So how do these ego states relate to sales interactions and executive presence? That's the fun part. In his research, Byrne noted 2 different types of interactions: complementary interactions and crossed interactions. In complementary interactions, the speaker and the respondent communicate in appropriate states, such as adult and adult ego states or parent and child ego states. In crossed interactions, the speaker and the respondent communicate in opposing ego states. The most common example is someone speaking from their adult ego state, yet getting responded to from a child or parent ego state. Let's take a look at some examples. In this example, the buyer is initiating a parent-to-child ego state dialogue by scolding the sales professional about wasting his time. The natural response for an untrained sales professional is to respond from his ego child state and apologize for the interruption. Let's take a look. The buyer says, "Scott, I'm a busy person, so this meeting better be worth my time." If the sales professional were to respond from a child to parent ego state, he may say something like, "I'm so sorry. Should we try to meet next quarter?" Or maybe even something like, "Yes, sir, I'll keep it under 20 minutes. However, in this example, the sales professional is aware of the prospect's attempt to engage his child ego state and is able to change the transaction from crossed to complementary. The sales professional may respond something like this: "I know we're both super busy, and from what we've discussed so far, it seems like this meeting is going to be worth it for both of us." Notice how the salesperson brought himself back up to an equal position as the prospect. Also notice that he did not try to rise above the prospect by using words like "I" or "me." as this would cause the buyer to raise his guard. Instead, the sales professional pulled the prospect closer by using words like we and us. In this next example, the prospect is trying to take control of the sales meeting and not share any information with the sales professional. He attempts to engage the sales professional's child ego state by speaking from his parent ego state. The prospect may say something like this: "I really don't have time for all this sales mumbo jumbo." While this typically happens due to poor needs analysis technique from the salesperson, it can happen even when the salesperson is doing everything right. So what is the best way to respond here? In this example, responding with a child to parent ego state, the sales professional concedes and responds with an apology and skips the needs analysis section altogether. He may say something like, "I'm so sorry, let me get to the point." A better response is for the sales professional to rise up to his adult ego state and engage with the buyer's adult ego state and respond with, "Very good point. That's why it's best to learn a little bit more about what you're looking for so we can save both of us time." In your sales career and in your personal life, you'll experience many interactions with individuals who attempt to push you into your child ego state, hoping to control the conversation. But now that you're armed with this information on Dr. Burns' transactional analysis research, you'll know how to keep your cool and engage in adult-to-adult conversation to maintain the proper ego state and hone your executive presence. I'm going to go clean my room. I'll see you in the next session.